Hey everybody, welcome back! Excited because it's a brand new build series, part number 1 of Tamiya's new 48 scale kit, and that is the F-35A. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so real excited about this one. I'm not a big F-35 guy, but I built the F-22 as you know about a year ago. It was a lot of fun, and this kit looks awesome, has tons of markings, and something a little bit different. I'm actually really jazzed to get working on this one. So latest kit from Tamiya, F-35A. So 3 variants of F-35, and hopefully Tamiya bring out all of them. So the A is basically your kind of vanilla, your general kind of version. You got your B version, like the UK have, which is your V-Store on the US Marines, where it's vertical takeoff and landing. And then you have the C, which is the carrier variant, like the Navy. So some more like heavier, more rugged gear, I think more fuel capacity, so go longer range. I think. Don't correct me on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's the 3 variants of the F-35. Plenty of semi-second scale kits out there. I built a Hasegawa one, which I sold, no longer have it, which is a beautiful kit in semi-second scale. We have the main kit. We have the Kitty Hawk kit from, it seems years ago now, and now Tamiya. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail of this one, because again, I've done a full review of this one on the channel, and you can see it there, but the detail looks pretty nice. I was a little worried to be really heavily done, the round, but it's actually, compared to the others, it's not too bad. Still a little heavy, but not as bad as some other kits out there. So definitely excited to get going on this one, and we'll be doing this one in the aggressor markings. Now, at the box, you have pretty much everybody on there. You have 9 markings in the box, Air Forces from all around the world, but I don't want to just do the boring grey. I want to do something a little bit different. So, aggressors. So, what are aggressors? So, I guess basically explain it for those who don't know. The United States Air Force, and obviously other Air Forces around the world too, they have a squadron of aircraft basically, which they use as like pretend enemy. So when they go up and do tactical, like, exercises or dogfights and stuff, they have aircraft that go up there and kind of like tend to be the enemy and kind of fight against. And these normally have markings kind of reminiscent of enemy, in parentheses, Air Forces. So you see marked like Russian kind of splinter camo, or just very interesting kind of different camouflage, just kind of make more distinctive to normal aircraft. So makes it a little bit more exciting. So again, this one I'm doing is 65th Aggressor. I'm going to use the Caracal decals, and it's basically going to be a camouflage grey with Arctic grey splinter camo lighter markings within amongst the aircraft, which we'll talk about later on when we get there. So yeah, so I'm can't really wait to get started. A few things to note in the instructions. So I'm just going to take the box a little bit out of the way here. You got to decide off the bat what version you're going to do. Again, there's several versions you can do out of this, which we'll talk about right now. And I'm thinking to buy, if this turns out good, I might buy 1 or 2 more of these kits if it's a nice kit, like the F-14, because there's so many different variations you can build out of this, which I'll explain right now. So, typical Tamiya instructions. Set the camera right here. If I open them up, as always with Tamiya, off the bat, you need to decide what are we going to do before you even cut the plastic. So you have A to J, again, Air Forces from all around the world. I quite fancy the Australian one, because I've never built an Australian Air Force aircraft before, so maybe that's my next one, might do that one. But this one, I said, will be the aggressor markings. It's going to be US Air Force, so we're going to go with A, which is US Air Force variant. Now, this isn't going to be totally stereotypically accurate, because I'm not going to go and probably buy the pods for the aggressor and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do probably an air-to-air version, US Air Force air-to-air version with the aggressor markings. So not 100% probably accurate, but in terms of loadout and what we're going to put on this thing, but it'll be pretty close. And for my personal collection, I think that's what I'm looking for. So A, US Air Force. Another thing to note here is this. I don't normally read instructions, which I know you should, and I did do quite well with this one. Actually, last night looked through these instructions and read them through and kind of figured out the game plan. So this little part here is quite important. A60 and A61, these 2 parts right here, which they want you to paint like a silver color. X11 is like a chrome, I think it is. Yeah, chrome silver. It says here, they depict RCS radar cross-section enhancers, which are fixed during basic training exercises, but not on live action or more complex exercises. If attaching to the model, make holes in the locations shown. So if you're doing probably a stealth version or beast mode maybe or something, you're probably not going to use these like training kind of sensors, right? But as we're doing aggressors, that's perfect detail for us. So we'll definitely be using those. So these A60 and A61 we're definitely using in our model, because again we're doing a training simulation aggressor aircraft. So A, and we'll be using those couple there. Next thing side is moving on here in the pages. Make sure it's on camera, and it is. Now you got to figure out your ordnance loadout. So I don't want to use letters again. It gets a little confusing. You think they'd maybe use numbers or some other kind of way of referencing it. But okay, so second set of letters, and at least they got like a little marking next to it with the aircraft. So you got your stealth mode, GBU-31s, AMRAAMs. Well, basically AMRAAM were 2 GBU-31s, which are JDAMs, I think, right? You got your airtime mode, which I think is more realistic to what we're doing with the aggressor, and that's just going to be a couple of AMRAAMs in there, and a couple of sidewinders on the edge, a couple of pylons on the outside with sidewinders. So I'm going to check a few more images, but I'm pretty sure we're going with B at that point. So we're going A for the Air Force type, and we're going B for the ordnance type. Now final one, C, is beast mode, and that's where it's fully loaded out with like an A10, fully loaded with everything. So you got your sidewinders, you got your AMRAAMs, you got your JDAMs, you got everything pretty much thrown on there. You got 3 pylons in each wing, fully loaded, plus the weapons bay, and yeah, go to town on that one. So B is what for this project. Again, if I build other ones down the future, that's why I said I've built more of these kits. I might want to do stealth mode or beast mode, depending on what I go there. That's really kind of it for now in terms of summary. The weapons bay looks quite fantastic in terms of detail. There's loads of parts going on here, lots of detail painting guides, and that's going to be a blast to do that one for sure. Not that I don't think you're really going to see it so much. Only other thing to point out, a couple of things really, from carry on with my review, now because it's more detail. You get a couple of metal kind of pins, and I was wondering what they were in a review, and I've since found out that the pins are, if I can find it here somewhere, they go into the, here we go, they go into the weapons bay doors. Now I'm not sure from looking at this if it means the doors can open and close. If we get a pin, I'm guessing they are. So yeah, so we'll see when we get to that part. So those metal pins, pin from each side, do the weapons door basically. And I'm not sure again. I'm not sure that's detail for detail or if it actually is a mechanism. You also have up and down flaps. I missed that on the review as well. The flapperons, should I call them? Down and up. We'll probably do down just to add a little bit of visual interest. And the other thing, the canopy, I did confirm that you do, as I said in the review, you get 2 canopies with a set, 2 frames, so you can actually build up an up or a down canopy and just interchange them into the model as you want. I'm probably going to do a pilot sat in here with the canopy down, I'm thinking, with this one. I often do canopy up. I like to do kind of normally like an air show kind of static display kind of look to my aircraft. Casing point behind me. This one I think I'll do pilot sat in, cockpit down, kind of maybe just fired up, ready to start taxiing and take off, that kind of configuration. And the pilots look quite awesome there. And I'm guessing that's carbon fiber, some of this stuff. I do have carbon fiber stuff for cars, film, so we can maybe use that instead of painting it. So just little things along the way just to catch. Again, not sure how many parts this is going to be, because again, never built this before, so I know it's going to be a handful, like 3 or 4 parts or 9 parts, but we'll go through it as we do, as always, build subsections, manage our build. I got the sun shining right in me, the winter sun coming in. We'll manage our build in subsections. I'm going to carry on like I've done the last few build series. I'm not going to show every single piece being glued together, because I think that gets a little bit tedious and boring. I'm going to keep it kind of snappy, 10-15 minute kind of videos, and just kind of highlight what colors I've kind of used, any problems I've encountered, any suggestions, that kind of stuff as I've gone through the build. So that's more of a high level, so I think that's more interesting to most people. So you don't want to see me, glue 15 components in 10 minutes. So that being said, I've gone through the instructions, and as always, I'm not going to start number 1. I'm going to pick and choose my kind of starting point and what I kind of want to get my in on this and get working, and that's going to be number 4. So if I just level up to the camera here, nose gear landing bay. So I'm going to start cutting this piece off the sprue, getting this all painted up and assembled, and we're going to do a nose gear. It looks like the nose gear actually has to be fitted in before you build, early on, which we'll paint up and do, and then it looks like it folds in and out So yeah, so we'll be building. I've had some challenges in the past where I'm not following instructions, and later on I couldn't get the gear in because the instructor says do it early on. So this time I will follow instructions. Because again, I'm not seeing anybody build this kit. I've never built a kit, so I will follow the pretty much instructions. So number 4, nose gear landing bay. I'm going to start cutting off all these pieces here. Pretty self-explanatory, and there's some detailed painting to do. And it basically fits into this kind of nose section right here, the lower kind of nose section. So we're going to start on that one. So I'm going to start ahead, get the plastic open, get going, get some stuff in primer, and I'll be right back and kind of show you where I'm at. All right, so moving along here, and you can see I put the whole thing together. Now, it's not as good as what Tamiya make out in the promo video where everything just fits together, no glue, no problem at all. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a really good fit. Just it's going to fall apart if I lift it up. So, nose gear bay, and I want to point you out something here. M4, which is basically the strut for the landing gear. Let's scoot this over a little bit. If you go forward to 24, which I'm not sure why it's so far from 4 to 24, you can see you have to cut part of it off because it's basically wedged down flat. And if you want it to kind of pivot and come upwards, you've got to glue it in place, and you'll cut that piece off. So the reason I'm pointing this out is I've just done it off the bat and cut this little tiny section off already because I know I can have the gear down. So if you can have the gear down, I don't see the point of leaving that in there. So if I kind of hold this up to the camera, you can kind of see, and then just what you're going to do is you're just basically going to push it up and glue that in place like that. So I'm also going to paint all this first and detail and stuff, but I just want to point that out because, yeah, otherwise trying to get in there with some side colors and cutting that back off after the fact might be a little tricky. I get why they do it. I guess they want it kind of fixed that position so you can paint it a lot easier at the very end of the build. Just kind of cut it off and flip this thing back and glue it, which I get. But it's just going to be a little hard to get in there, I think. So again, done that first, cut that back off, and you can see the detail in here. No problem at all. It just fits really well. Again, no glue on this. This is just dry fitted, the various components and stuff. So I'm just going to take this apart now, paint them up individually in all detail, and then I'm going to come back and glue it all in place. So I just want to point that out. So instructions, be careful. So 4, but you got to flip through to 24 to get the real kind of picture of what's going on there. So yeah, I'm going to be painting this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so painting away here, and I just want to go over a few little painting things I've not done for a while, so I just want to run through my setup with you real quick. So been using for about a year or 2 now the Rosemary, sorry the paint on my fingers, Rosemary & Company. This is a size 2, a Series 8 size 2 brush, and I've mentioned this many times before, but with painting, smaller brushes don't mean more accurate painting. It's actually the opposite. You need something a little bigger, just it holds more paint. So like these 5 zeros, 2 zeros, that kind of stuff are just way too small. If you switch up to a bigger brush, like I've got here, size 2 or size 1, just make things a little bit easier to paint, as long as you have a nice tip. Say Rosemary & Co., a little step down from Winsor & Newton, but pretty reasonably priced when I bought these. And again, I've been using this well over a year, and for a lot of hand painting I do with my models, and it's holding up really well. So Series 8, size 2 brush. What else? I typically paint with acrylics hand painting, like game color. I don't know why, but game color is just a lot nicer than model color. So these are traditionally you've probably seen in model color paints. Both Vallejo, and they brought game color out. It just seems, these are more for wargaming colors. They just seem more high pigmented. More pigmented, just brush mix a lot nicer. Some of these are a little bit watery. I don't find this with game color. So just a heads up, model color or game color. If I had a choice, always game color, just better paints. I don't know why. And Citadel also do nice paints, basic whites, that kind of stuff. And Model Air, even though it's air for the airbrush, they actually hand paint really well. So any metallics, I paint Model Air, and 99% of the time aluminum, 71.062. This is stable to have in your toolbox, especially in game color, white and blacks as well. Highly recommend. Now, I did start painting some of this, and I thought, let's try the old Tamiya enamel paints I picked up recently. I just couldn't get on with them at all. I found them, they're very, very thick. Obviously, you can mix them, dilute them down with some enamel thinner. But if you just went slightly off track, with this acrylic paint with a Q-tip, you can just wipe it right off easy. With enamel paints, you got to get some enamel thinner out and wash it off and stuff. They're just really hard to work with. I found these game colors way easier for me. What I've been doing for the past couple of years. I don't know. I just, now and again it's nice to change, but definitely not an improvement for me. Now, I'll tell you what though, they do make a beautiful wash, these enamels from Tamiya. I just want to clean my brush and just, obviously with some enamels and wiping out and stuff and just looking at it, it's a very, very high pigmented, very nice wash, even probably better than Long. So they do have their uses for sure, but definitely in hand painting for me, a no-no. So, gone for the instructions. So what I did was all these parts here, I basically sprayed black, Mr. Surfacer 1500 black for a priming coat, and then put on some XF2 Tamiya acrylic white airbrushed over the top. Now, when I do white, I don't hose it on. I like to, light coats, and so it's not a pure white. It has that grimy kind of look to it, which this would have. It's a wheel well, so it's not going to be perfectly spot white. So I did that. I thought, let's switch it up a little bit. So as you can see, sorry, my chair's creaking as I move around here. I took out some. It's not pure white, as I mentioned. So I took out some pure white, just happened to be Citadel, but whatever your white paint is. And just hand brush some of the raised details. So like the piping here, and on here, some of the fronts of the boxes and stuff. It should all be the same color, but just adds a little bit of visual interest. And that's something I really picked up from figure painting. The little I do, like highlights and lowlights and stuff. So hopefully in the camera you can see it in the lighting. It's all white, but it just looks slightly different, adds a little bit more visual appeal. So that's basically what I did there. Again, just coming back, you can see here as well on this piece. Just painting, little highlights, certain parts with that bright, pure white, just to kind of make it distinctive, but kind of subtle at the same time. So went through, painted them all, pretty much put instructions, just a few colors here and there. Now, there's quite a few little decals to go on. So the next part for me now is just to throw the decals all over this, and then I'll come back and we'll assemble it and then add a wash. I think just to, or maybe a wash first to get all these, pick up some of these detail. Very, very fine wash. And actually, I might even use the Tamiya enamel black I was using where I cleaned the brush. You can see I have a very very pale black wash I inadvertently created while I cleaned the brush. So waste not, want not. I might use that. So I'm going to go ahead and get these again. I paint a little bit, a few bits here and there. I'm going to go ahead and get the decals on, and then we come back and get this guy put together. I just want to take a little pause here and just again go through my kind of setup here and explain what I got going on, the brushes, the paints, that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's been about an hour or so. Let's have some lunch and let these decals settle in. Now, the thing with the decals, I'm thinking maybe I may have got it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. So I think these two are probably the wrong way around the instructions. There might be a correction, but just be careful because I just had a feeling when I took it off, they seem wrong. And also, when you take them off the backing paper, check the instructions. It gives you which way to go around because they go on like this one's upside down, and this one goes on the side. So again, it's all the instructions. It shows you pretty clearly. Just follow that. You should have no problems at all. Also, when I painted all this up, I totally forgot. Seeing the instructions, you got to paint the outside of this white too. So yeah, so just not a problem. Just means extra paint work. That's prime it up and paint it again. Just extra work. So paint the outside here as well as all the inside and all the rest of these parts white at the same time. It's going to save you a little bit of work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of a wash. And I can do it here on camera. It's going to be the usual Long 502 Starship Filth. This color is a very good grime color, and use it for everything pretty much nowadays. It's funny, I have all these 502 oils on there, and I probably use like 1 or 2 out of 20 I have. So you don't really need all the colors and stuff. So just on the back of this plastic lid here, just a tiny little piece of paint. And so these things, I've had this 3 years or 4 years, and you see how much you use. It might be $7 for a tube, but again, you use so little, it lasts forever. I'll put the lid on in a minute. Come back with my enamel thinners. And I think that's going to be, I'm going to need more, but so I'm just going to basically mix it with a paintbrush. I can see it definitely too thick for what I need. I want it nice, thin. Consistency. Okay, still a little bit more. But you can do it around here. Okay, a lot more translucent. And then all I'm going to do is just take these parts and just basically, see, just dab it. And it's going to pick out all the raised areas and dry back, create a really good effect. So same here. Let it flow nice and thin over everywhere. And you can see that it looks kind of dark, but it will definitely come back and when it dries. If you do put too much on, just use some straight enamel thinners and just dart it back. You see, I made way too much here for what I need, but again, just going over the areas. Not much at all, just a couple of drops. And it's easy as that. This is a little too strong for me, so I'm just going to wipe some off. The other side as well. Oh, this little guy too. Actually, I'm going to put this on a crocodile clip. So, oops, just hold it better. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really it. Just run through, add a few more pieces here and there. I missed some. And yeah, leave that dry for about an hour. And I'll come back, assemble it all, put it together, and then we're pretty much done with this section. So yeah, just go around here. If you notice anything just a little bit too heavy, get with the brush, just dab it and move it around and stuff. And really easy to use because, like I said, you can just wipe it all off or just use some more thin if you want to dial it back. You see how little paint I used and how thick it got. Obviously, I made enough for a whole aircraft here pretty much for this display, but I have tried making this up before in a batch and put it in a bottle. It's kind of pre-made, but I find it kind of evaporates very quickly, so it doesn't always work so good. So I just make it up every time I need it. And it usually lasts, probably maybe like a few hours at least. And you can always, when it dries up, you just rehydrate it with more thinner and just go again, pretty much. So cool. Yeah, let these dry. I'll put it all together and we'll come right back and wrap it up. Okay, so we're done with this section and glued it all together. And you see the camera here, close up. That's how we're looking. Maybe a little bit too much in the way of wash. It's still maybe a little thick, but not grime, too much grime. But I don't know. I think it's fine the way it is. And as you can see, we've got I've cut the end off, as I mentioned at the very beginning, of the gear, because if I pull it back, that's how it's going to be. You can just glue that in position there, and very end, and we're good to go. But I think the point of this is to have it down so you can put paint, you can put a panel over, paint it all up, and not get in the way and snap it and stuff. So yeah, obviously put this guy in first. It's a little super glue, touch of super glue, and then put this guy in. That's how we're looking. Obviously need a bit of white here, just blend the two colors together, and we should be good to go. But yeah, there you go. So opens and closes the gear, and that is it. So we haven't accomplished much in part number one. We just did that little part, and we got a lot more to go. Now, don't worry, we're not going to be so in the weeds with this one. I'm not going to go through it in such painstakingly detail. I think I just want to go over for just a quick reminder of some of the paints I used and washes and that kind of stuff as an intro, And as we move forward to the tub and other areas, it's going to be the same technique, so I'm not going to go over it all again. So a little bit kind of slower pace just to get us going. We'll pick up the pace for sure in part number 2 and we'll get cracking with this thing. So we're not by any means going to spend that much level of detail on each section on this build series. But yeah, there we go. First bit done, 0 problems, all gets to go beautifully. Not quite as good as Tamiya say. I mean, there's no way you can put that together with no glue. It would fall apart. So we do have obviously glued it, as you should. And yeah, sections 4 and 5 instructions done. We'll be back next week with the next part. Not sure yet which way I'm going to go. I'm going to look at the instructions here and figure out the game plan, what makes sense, and we'll go from there. But have a great week. I'll see you next week. See ya.